Okay, let's get started. All right, today we're going to be talking about B2B advertising using video. Video is commonly a channel that is thought of more in the B2C realm, but we've been using it effectively with our clients for B2B and are doubling down on it with a few clients in 2023. So I thought this was a great opportunity for us to talk about the myriad of options that actually exist in video advertising, because a lot of us B2B marketers aren't as familiar with them. So diving in here, a couple housekeeping things. Please do feel free to post your questions into the chat. We will address those at the end of the presentation today. And I want to encourage you as well to think about those, and don't wait to post them until the end. Just post them as they come to you, so we can address them in real time or at the end. Also, you will get a copy of these slides. If you're registered and you're not watching this on the live stream, you'll get those automatically. If you are watching this on the live stream, there'll be a QR code at the end, or if you're watching the recording after the fact, there'll be a QR code at the end to get a copy of the slides, so don't feel like you need to take screen captures. A little bit about me. My name's Steve Robinson. I'm the founder and CEO here at Brilliant Metrics. In addition to my role here at Brilliant Metrics, I teach a few classes for UWM School of Continuing Ed. I'm also sort of former life software developer, so I get into the geek end of digital marketing pretty deep. I'll try to stay out of the deep end too far today during today's webinar. And if you want to know about me personally, I'm married with 3 kids that keep me humble every day. A little bit about Brilliant Metrics for anyone who's not familiar. Brilliant Metrics is a B2B digital first marketing agency. We are full service. We don't mind traditional tactics, but we like to start with the digital, where things are a little more agile, a little bit more measurable. What makes us different from everybody else, I think, is that our clients really rely on us, not just to help them do stellar marketing, but really to help them improve as marketers, as an organization, as a company, and improve in both results as well as capabilities. All right, enough advertising for Brilliant Metrics. Let's get into the meat of today's presentation. We're going to cover 5 things today. We're going to talk very briefly about why video. I'm assuming I'm preaching to the choir if you're here, but it's worth noting a few trends or statistics that brings video really to the forefront in 2023. We'll talk a little bit about the different formats when you start to go produce video for an advertising instead of just organic or putting it on your website. There's some format considerations. I want to make a very clear distinction between the lean back and lean forward experience. We'll talk about what that is. We'll cover the different placements or different ways different types of video advertising that exist out there, and then finally how to connect all that back to some strategies. So without further ado, why video? Why is this important? Video is still growing, and I know that seems hard to believe, but if you look at YouTube's growth in monthly active users, it actually increased faster in the last year than it had even during the pandemic, which is amazing when you think about it. How many people are not currently, actively using YouTube? But what we're seeing is cord cutters moving away from cable TV and broadcast TV, and people want to watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it. The nice thing about that as B2B marketers is terrestrial TV isn't something that we can really invest in. It's too broad in its targeting. But when you start getting into all these other forms of digital media, they're much more addressable, and they are now mediums that we can use as digital marketers. So as growth in platforms like YouTube, as growth in platforms like TikTok or Tubi, which is an app installed on most smart TVs that is ad-supported video on demand. As these platforms grow and people shift away from cable TV and even over the air, we get audience. We get opportunities to get in front of people in as B2B marketers. Prospects and customers are increasingly expecting video as part of their buyer's journey. This is definitely true on the B2C side, where we see 26% of consumers actually use social video platforms like your TikTok, like your Facebook and Instagram to make those to make buying decisions and to find out about products, become aware of products. They're also looking to your website for video, and if you can bring that video to them instead of them coming to it really gets that much more legs out of the video that you're already producing. The other reason why now is the time for video is really because your competitors are investing. Like I said, video is still growing. It's also still growing as marketers and marketing teams are adopting it. It's growing a little bit more slowly. Really, its rapid acceleration actually occurred back 2016 through 2018. But what we're seeing today is that it's not just producing videos, but it's producing good videos or better videos. And that's not necessarily a reflection of production quality, but it's more a reflection of producing video content that people want to watch and people want to hear. And I think marketers and marketing teams are getting more and more savvy with this, and your competitors are getting more and more savvy with this. We have the benefit being B2B that we lag a little bit in this regard, but that lag is starting to disappear. And so if you're not actively using video, both from an organic standpoint and on your website, but also from a paid perspective, now is really the time to invest. All right, enough preaching to the choir on video. You're here, you value video, so let's talk a little bit about the formats that you're going to find within video. When we think about YouTube, we generally think about a skippable video. So if you're producing a skippable video, your constraints are a little bit different. You don't really have as much constraint on length. Anything up to 5 minutes will work. The key is you want to hook that visitor within those first 2-3 seconds so that they don't skip your video. So the style of video is important, but length is not as important. If your video is too frequently skipped, it will reduce reach on YouTube, which is the most common placement for skippable video. You might not know this, but you can actually run skippable video in other places on the internet. But the most common placement for a skippable video is going to be on YouTube. And if too many people skip that video, YouTube will start ratcheting up your costs as well as reducing your reach because they see it as creating a poor experience for their users. If you're not going to do skippable content, and I kind of lump social into skippable as well because you just keep swiping to skip it. If you're not going to do that, then you're really locked into a certain duration of video. And the most common for durations here are going to be your 30s and your 15s. So your 30 seconds, it used to be a 30-second spot and a 15-second spot, but these are 30-second and 15-second length videos. The durations are strict. 14 seconds won't work, 16 seconds won't work. It has to be exactly 15 seconds or 30 seconds in order to really get the ability to place it on these different platforms we'll talk about in a moment. These are not skippable. And when something has a 15 or 30-second duration, it's not something that's skippable, and you're guaranteed that your audience is going to watch that whole video or ignore that whole video if they start multitasking or walk away from the TV. The other difference is with your skippable video, you usually are only paying for people who actually watch beyond that skip button's presence. That's the whole premise of YouTube's TrueView platform. Whereas with your 15s and your 30s, you're paying per impression because everybody at least was broadcast that entire video, whether or not they held their attention. That's on you and the quality of the video you produce. The last format here is unique to YouTube, and that is a 6-second bumper. We love 6-second bumpers because if your objective is brand awareness and you just want to get your name and a feel for what it's like to work with you or what makes you different out there, then a 6-second bumper is ideal. It allows you to have that reach and that frequency at a lower cost than you would with a 30-second video or something along those lines. And it also leverages all of YouTube's great targeting capabilities. But it has to be exactly 6 seconds. And so you're not going to fit a big, long presentation in there. You're really going to get across your brand or your product and your value proposition and then get out. It also doesn't lend a lot of time for someone to click on something. All right, so those are your basic formats. Let's talk about where we can run this video. I would be remiss if I didn't mention YouTube. It is the 800-pound gorilla, right? YouTube is wonderful, but it comes with a couple of unique advantages and some constraints. So first of all, TrueView is more than just a program where you only pay for the videos that people watch, as I mentioned before. It also plays into Google's overall premise, and that is that they want to maximize their users' experience on their platform while at the same time making tons of money on advertising. And TrueView allows them to do that, much in the same way that, you know, their search ads, if you're not getting the clicks, they start to demote your search ads and make you pay through the nose to get them to show up. TrueView does the same thing with videos. If people are skipping your videos, they start charging you through the nose to be able to show them, or they just don't show them at all. And so the way that the TrueView algorithm works, it throws a video out there to a subset of your audience. And if people are skipping that video, then it pulls back or increases the bid that you have to come at in order to be able to get those videos to show. If your video is getting clicked on a lot, or I mean, not skipped a lot, sorry. If your video is getting not skipped a lot, then you're going to get actually an advantage in your CPMs or your cost per views. You're going to get a discount, so it actually costs less to run your ads, and it's going to show them to more of the audience that you're targeting. Some disadvantages to that, though. If you don't have a lot of control, we see this mostly with marketers that don't have a lot of control over their video content. Somebody else is telling them what has to go in that video, and they can only push back so much. And so they end up with a video that isn't of interest to their audience. And you really need a captive audience to get that video in front of them. In that instance, the TrueView algorithm will work at your against you, and it will drive up your CPMs. If too many people are skipping that video because the first 5 seconds just can't hold their attention, you'll end up paying through the nose or not reaching your audience. They do have unskippable inventory. I'm going to tell you to just avoid it. It's just not worth the cost. It's much more cost effective if you want to run 30 and 15-second videos to run them on other platforms, but you can run them here. And then jumping back over to advantages, the targeting on YouTube and the algorithm that YouTube uses in order to get your video in front of more people that don't skip it is really amazing. So being able to target things contextually based on other videos on YouTube can be phenomenal. There are videos on YouTube on any topic out there. And if you can't match that topic on keyword, you can go and select those individual videos and say, hey, I want to run alongside this content, or people who watch this video are in my audience. The other thing that, I did skip something. Let's take a moment and talk about lean forward and lean back. Your audience is in one of two modes. It's either in a lean forward mode or in a lean back mode. YouTube is a unique platform in that it's both. So if I'm in lean forward, it means my hands are on a device. It means that I can tap or click on something in order to go learn more about it. I can follow a direct response ad. I can pop up a browser and go and search for something. I can take an action right then and there without any problem. If I'm in a lean back scenario, I might have a smartphone in my hand, but I'm watching the video on a TV or on a computer in a way that I'm not anticipating interacting with that screen in any way, shape, or form. Of all the platforms we're going to talk about, YouTube is pretty unique in that it's mixed. You don't know whether that person is on their computer watching this as they're researching something for work, or if that person is watching YouTube on a TV screen in their living room. YouTube is YouTube is YouTube. So there are ways you can set preferences in the targeting to try and, specify what type of device, but even then you don't know whether they're watching it on a stand, lean back, or whether they're watching it in their hands, lean forward. Along with that, The one thing that is nice about YouTube is you can pretty well assume that audio is on. We'll talk about some other placements, and audio can be on or off for those placements. For YouTube, chances are your audio is on. So how can you leverage YouTube? Well, first of all, as B2B, a lot of the interests that are out there for targeting in the Google ecosystem are completely irrelevant to us. And a lot of people who are using YouTube advertising are targeting based on interest. That's not going to work for us. But what we can target is individual videos or keywords in videos, and we can get that rich contextual type of targeting out there. We can also do retargeting in YouTube and target visitors to our website with certain videos in order to really hammer home a value proposition or reinforce our brand, whatever it is we need to do there. And then finally, if you have a large enough list, and Google requires 1,000 matches, which usually equates to about 2,000 people on your list, you can upload a list of people, and Google will use a tool called Customer Match to go and match those to Google users. And you can target individual audiences that way. That is hugely powerful, especially if you have a marketing automation platform or a CRM platform that has a rich segmented list of people. You can download that data, upload it to Google, and then go and target that audience. We do that a lot at Brilliant Metrics, and it works really well. A couple quick pro tips. One, always make sure your content starts strong. Because you're looking at skippable inventory, you have that first 3 seconds to really capture that audience's attention. The biggest sin we see in this regard is that we'll get a video that'll have a splash screen of the logo for the first 3 seconds. That's not going to work. You need to have action, content, value, entertainment, something in that first 3 to 5 seconds that really hooks that viewer, that it's worthwhile for me to spend my time watching this video instead of what it was I came to YouTube to watch instead. Entertainment value works great for that, but not all of us as B2B marketers have the ability to do that in an on-brand sort of way. So instead, hook them with a question or a problem or an idea that is novel to them or is maybe top of mind to them, and grab their attention that way. Again, TrueView is the way to go. Unskippable inventory on YouTube is just not worth bidding on or playing with. It's just too expensive for what you get, and you're far better off going with the skippable stuff. Okay, so in summary, YouTube can be bought through Google Ads. As an agency, we buy it through DV360 because we get a few more bells and whistles and tools at our disposal that way. We talked about the different formats. All of them apply here on YouTube, but again, I would stick with your skippable and your 6-second bumpers. You don't know whether it's lean forward, lean back. Lots of targeting methods available. I would strongly recommend sticking to CRM, contextual, and then retargeting, cookie ID. And then you have a lot of unique benefits in the skippable nature of the content. Unique constraints: the quality of your content matters to your economics. If people are skipping your content, you're going to pay. So that's unique to this particular platform. You're not going to find that elsewhere, where they really care about the quality of your video. But on YouTube, the more you engage your audience, the less you pay. And then costs are in the $30 to $300 CPM. You can go sub $30 on the CPM if you really pull back on your targeting. But for the niche targeting that we have to do as B2B marketers, you usually end up paying a little bit higher, just because the audience is of higher value. So next up is social. This covers your Meta products, your Facebook, your Instagram, as well as TikTok, and Twitter and LinkedIn are really your 5 majors here. Some advantages here: any length of video works, any production quality of video works. Social is not expecting high production quality video. A person in his and their camera is perfectly fine. Just sitting there talking into a smartphone up on a tripod is going to work just fine for this style of video if you're providing value, whether that's entertainment or information. The algorithmic optimization is awesome. Usually this cuts in our benefit. Occasionally this can hurt us as B2B marketers. The social platforms, especially Facebook, whose algorithms are just off the charts good at this, do pattern matching. If somebody watches your video all the way to the end, Facebook will say, that is a valuable person, like that person, we nailed it with that person. Let's go find more people just like that person and show this video to them. That works really well when your video is very clearly B2B, it's on target for your audience, and more importantly, it's off target for your non-audience. So where we run into problems here is when we start introducing entertainment into our videos. Like the Will It Blend series from a few years ago from Blend Tech, where they started shoving random stuff into blenders. They were a B2B company. They were focused on B2B sales, but they ended up amassing a huge B2C audience. And those videos spread like wildfire when they promoted them on social platforms because they had universal appeal. So you want to be a little bit careful with entertainment. You want to be a little bit careful with, if you're in a food equipment industry and you start talking about recipes or cooking or things like that, that have that edge of is this B2C or B2B and you're not really sure, that type of content can start tricking the algorithm into showing your video to the wrong people. But outside of that, it does a phenomenal job of pattern matching based on the engagement of those people on other platforms. The other nice thing that you're going to find with paid social that you're not going to find with a lot of the other platforms is you get CTA options, call to action options. You can put a button underneath your video to ask people to do something. You're not going to find that nearly as much elsewhere. You can run a companion banner on YouTube, but again, because YouTube is both lean forward and lean back, a lot of folks are going to be watching that up on a big screen. They're not going to click or engage in those CTAs. Your socials are done in the palm of your hand. Your hand is on that device. You are scrolling, you are tapping, you are swiping, you are doing what you need to do to navigate that social platform. So your thumb is there to go and tap into an ad, into a call to action, and go and take advantage of an offer. As a lean forward experience, paid social is far better if you actually want to ask your audience to do something digitally in the moment. A few disadvantages. We're finding that horizontal-based video on paid social doesn't run nearly as well as vertical video does. That is sort of the expectation of the platform. And you get on like Instagram and TikTok, that's a requirement. And so not all video can be quickly edited and reformatted to be vertical. You really have to take care in the planning of that video, the shooting of that video, and the editing of that video to make sure that you can produce a version for YouTube that's horizontal and a version that for your socials that is vertical. And then to make matters worse, each one of these social platforms, there's sort of an expected style or norm to that video in order to make it feel native to that platform. And so if you start doubling down on that, now you're looking at several edits to the same video in order to get it to really play well on each of the given social networks in their native style or format. All the more reason to pick where you play and play well where you play, right? So when is this good to use? Your paid social video is really a phenomenal workhorse when you have video that is of value, because again, it's skippable. People can just continue to swipe. When you want to marry a video with a direct response offer, click here to sign up, click here to learn more, click here to buy, etc. Retargeting and CRM targeting are also phenomenal on these platforms. And one of the unique advantages of at least most of these social platforms is not only can you retarget off your web page, but you can retarget off of videos themselves. So now you can reach back out to that audience that had engaged with that video and watch that video to 75%, 90%, whatever your threshold is, with a subsequent offer on that same platform. And so that's where, one of the pro tips here is to retarget off video views with an image ad or a simpler ad with a really strong CTA. So I watch an informative video that really frames the problem that my product solves, right? Or that their product solves. And then the next day I get an offer for a discount or a strong call to action to schedule a meeting today or whatever it might be based on that video that I saw that was really the video was more informative and high value and not salesy, but I can follow that up with a really salesy offer if for the people that watch that video to 75 or 90%. Same thing as YouTube, your video has to start with really strong content and hook that user, or they just keep scrolling or swiping. So platforms, Meta, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, format is always skippable because everybody can keep swiping or scrolling. It is lean forward. They do have their hands on the device. You can ask them to do something. Doesn't mean they will. Your targeting really depends on the platform, so I'm not going to get into that. But the unique benefits are that strong CTA, the ability to get somebody right there, as well as to retarget off views and put an offer in front of them later. The algorithm, especially the meta algorithms, are just amazing at going and finding more audience that wants to engage in the video that you just published. And you don't need high production quality in order to fit in on most of these platforms. Matter of fact, too high a production quality can stick out. Some unique constraints or challenges. That vertical format is best, and each platform has its unique style. A TikTok video doesn't play very well on LinkedIn, or vice versa. So figuring out how to really cater to the style of that platform is important. CPMs are all over the place. And again, the platforms will give you a little bit of a kick or a little bit of a discount on that CPM if people are engaged in that video and staying on platform to watch it, because the more they can steal people's eyeballs, the more money they make in other advertising. They want to keep people on Facebook or on Twitter or on TikTok. So if your videos play well, they'll give you a nice little discount on your CPMs. All right, programmatic video. I suppose I should take a moment here and explain what programmatic is. If you're watching CNN.com or any of the news sites that have video on them, whether it's a local news channel or something else, if it's video that's being played inside of a browser and there is a pre-roll spot, an ad that shows before, or a mid-roll, an ad that shows in the middle, or a post-roll, something that shows at the end, that's a programmatic video. It's usually watched in browser, and that's the key difference between, we'll talk about OTT and CTV. But there's more formats than just that pre-roll. If you've ever been to a website and then there's been a video that is playing without sound in the corner of the website, and you scroll and the video stays in the corner, that's an outstream, and that's another type of programmatic video. Some advantages of programmatic video. It has some of the broadest targeting options. Depending on the DSP, the demand side platform, the platform that you as a marketer or we as the agency is using to buy that video, we can get a wide variety of different ways to target that. From third-party audiences that are starting to really, they don't work as well with death of cookies and the impending death of cookies, but they still work a little bit as an option. We can do contextual targeting based on what else is on that web page. We can do lookalike targeting. We can do CRM targeting. We can do retargeting. There's lots of targeting methods available, lots of different ways to slice and dice and constrain geographically, et cetera, on top of that. And with that, there's a lot of B2B third-party audiences as well out there. That's really the only advantage to this, because I should also say it's cheap. You can get really cheap programmatic video views. Some of the disadvantages: you can't run skippable programmatic. It's possible, it's physically possible to run skippable, and there is skippable inventory out there. However, your reach is so small that by the time you go and layer on some of our niche B2B audiences on top of finding the skippable inventory, you're spending way more money managing that media than you are actually running it. And so it just doesn't make sense. So you're really constrained to those 15s and 30s non-skippable inventory. So that means you're limited to 30 seconds. You have to get everything in 30 seconds if you're gonna run it paid. The biggest thing here is placements and audiences vary very wildly in quality. When you start running programmatic video and you're running it across a wide variety of sites and the formats are a little bit different, there are certain websites that run 2, 3, 4 annoying outstream videos every time you scroll past a certain point in the page. There are websites that will run your pre-roll in a little itty bitty video window this big. You don't have a lot of control over the quality of how your video is presented. YouTube is always going to be in pretty good quality. It's always going to be in a format that somebody can make it usable to watch that video that they're going to watch. Whereas pre-roll or programmatic, sometimes that's a video that just starts automatically when somebody hits a web page. So your quality is going to vary. Your quality of placement is going to vary. And you really have to know how to work the controls of that demand side platform, that DSP, to get that video running in the places that it's going to work well for you. You can run companion banners, calls to action alongside ads in programmatic video, but they don't always show up. Matter of fact, I'd say more often than not, the companion banner isn't going to show up. So asking people to act inside of here, it's going to be a little bit harder. The good news is it's generally lean forward. They're generally in front of a device, hands-on, because they're browsing the web or watching videos inside of a browser window. But there isn't always some place for them to click to go somewhere. And then you also can't assume that sound is on. A lot of these videos will be pre-roll on videos that automatically start playing when somebody hits the web page. Think when you click that news story on your local news website and it takes you there and the video just starts playing without sound on, because to automatically play a video with sound on is intrusive, but they want to jump to the video, so they start the video with the sound off. That's an example of where if you're pre-roll on that, you're not going to get sound on your video. And almost all those outstreams or the video shown off to the side, most of those don't have sound on. So if sound is integral to your video message, this is not necessarily the best medium for you. So when do you want to use it? Well, because it's cheap and you can get really great targeting and really great reach with it, it can be really good for brand awareness. Just seeing that brand repeatedly as you're bouncing around the internet is great. And if you can add some emotion to that through some motion and some messaging and some, some entertainment or some value there, that can be, or some storytelling, that can be really compelling. You have some unique targeting parameters like geofencing and some of the rich third-party audiences that can be really beneficial that you can't get elsewhere. Couple of pro tips. One, every DSP lets you limit how you're running your ad and where it can run when you run programmatic video. Always go and check and make sure you're running really only probably pre and mid-roll. I wouldn't even run post-roll. Just constrain it to that. All the other placements are garbage. And then always include a companion banner if you can. The sizes vary from platform and DSP, but including a companion banner with your programmatic video is a good idea, because for the placements that it does run, it's great to give them something to click on or another brand impression right next to that video, even after that video is done running. Okay, so that's programmatic. Jumping over to the last one, and this is the one that I think we as B2B marketers rarely consider as an option, and that is OTT or CTV, over the top or connected TV. This is this is your Roku or your Apple TV apps that have commercials in them. The ones that don't, Disney Plus, for example, nobody can advertise on Disney Plus, but Tubi, which is free TV. There are a number of these apps that have ads inside of them, CNN, etc. Those ones we can target. The nice thing about this is ad blocking is not an issue. If you've got a really good ad blocker, even some of YouTube ads will end up kind of getting blocked. At least the companion banners will. Whereas when we start looking at connected TV, there's no ad blocker inside of your Roku TV or your smart TV or your Apple TV. The other nice thing is, because it's lean back, and if there is a skip button, you've got to go reach for the remote to skip it. A lot of these ads are really they're going to get watched all the way through, and people are usually going to stay just watching the TV during this time. So you get really high retention rates with this type of video. People will remember what they see because they're there to watch video. You know, YouTube can get put up in the background as to play music and other things like that. This isn't going to happen here. A few disadvantages: you lose a lot of targeting when it comes to OTT and CTV. So you've got to bring the targeting. The platforms aren't going to give you B2B audiences to go and reach out to and target. And the other thing is higher production quality is kind of expected. You're on a TV, you're expected TV quality, production quality. So running something that is really low production quality will stick out like a sore thumb. So you probably want to, if you don't have somebody that's professional, great on staff, you probably do want to retain a video producer to get you high quality video for this purpose. So how can you use it? Some platforms will let you target by IP address. So if you can harvest IP addresses out of your marketing automation platform or your website visitors, that's a great way to reach those folks at home. A lot of people are working from home 2-3 days a week, and yeah, you might hit their kids or their spouse, but chances are you'll also hit them, and that waste is no more than programmatic video or anything else, right? A lot of these do have retargeting capabilities. And you ask, well, how do you retarget? It's not like I'm browsing people's websites on my smart TV. Well, it's largely IP based. So it's taking a look at the network address of these houses and what are they browsing when they're offline. Couple pro tips here. Again, remember, this is guaranteed to be a lean back experience. So don't expect people to take action directly off your ads. Now, that doesn't mean you can't generate demand from these video ads. It just means you can't ask people to do something right then and there. You know, in the old days, we had TV commercials that said dial, you know, such and such a number, and then they repeat it 6 times. You could remember it long enough to make the phone call. We're B2B, nobody's doing that anyway, but then to ask them to go and take a more complicated action online or elsewhere is probably not going to happen. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have a call to action at the end of your ad or your video. You should, but just don't make it something that you're expecting them to do right then and there in the moment. One unique thing that you can do is there are a number of data enrichment partners. Now, privacy laws apply here. You need to be mindful of that depending on geographically where you're doing this, how you're doing this, what you're doing with this data. However, there are data brokers and data services that do exist that will allow you to map a person's digital presence back to their home address. You can do that, then pipe those home addresses into a CTV DSP and actually target those people's homes with media from your company. So when would you do that? Well, when it's high profile individuals. I've known a number of pharmaceutical companies have done a really effective job of targeting doctors this way. There are ways that you can reach other specific high value prospects. So think your CEOs, your business owners, those folks, by mapping those addresses and pulling that data over. So OTT, CTV, and programmatic, you're going to need a demand-side provider for this, and specifically you need a demand-side provider that offers this particular service, or you need an agency like we have access to this inventory. Your formats are stuck here though. Your 15s and 30s, that's what you're going to run here. There's no skippable, there's no long form. You could run a 60, but I don't see the point in that necessarily. It is lean back. Fewer opportunities for targeting. I mean, if there's a TV show or a program that your audience is guaranteed to be watching that you think it makes sense for you to be on, go for it. But most of your contextual offerings are not going to be applicable here because it's mainstream programming. IP and CRM are going to be where it's at. CRM being physical addresses. Some of the platforms let you do that. Unique benefits. Because it is unskippable, right? Because people are kind of glued to the screen while they're watching this, you're going to have that higher engagement retention rate. You don't have to worry about this video playing in the background or playing without sound. You don't have to worry about somebody just continuing to scroll like you do on social. You have their undivided attention for 15 or 30 seconds, or at least long enough for them to turn to whoever's in the room and start a conversation. Unique constraints, you're really stuck on household targeting. That means you're going to have some waste as you hit other members of that household that maybe watch more programs than their intended target. And you do need that higher production quality. Your CPMs are a little bit on the high side as well when you start looking at this, but you're getting attention guaranteed. Whereas with these other platforms, you're either, you run the risk of getting, swiped or scrolled. You run the risk of it playing in the background or without sound or in some weird little corner of the internet, or you run the risk of them, running YouTube in the background to play music. So. All right, let's dig into strategies. I haven't seen any questions in the chat here. Let me check the live stream chat and make sure that's true there too. So please do post some questions as they come to mind. First thing, from a strategy standpoint, I strongly suggest you take a step back and think about what is your goal, and not from a what do we want to say standpoint, but what is the change you want to see in your audience? How do you want to move or impact your audience? And you also have to take a look at what is their goal as well. What's in it for them to give you their attention for the duration of your video? If you aren't meeting a need or a want or a desire, whether that's entertainment value or good storytelling, or whether that is information or valuable content, or solving a problem or helping them think about a problem differently, or giving them exactly the offer that they never knew they needed or that they know they need. If you aren't solving a problem of theirs, then you're misguided to begin with. Video advertising you'll buy the first few seconds of that person's attention, but you won't buy the rest of it, because they can skip, they can swipe, they can scroll, they can turn to the person next to them and strike up a conversation. So what change do you want to see in their audience? And then additionally, what is the viewer's goal in continuing to watch your video? With that, as marketers, we have primarily 3 different goals that we can put forward in a video. We can focus on awareness. That could be awareness for our brand. That could be awareness for a product. Either way, we're trying to increase trust or positive emotions for a brand or product or service. Maybe associate that brand or that product or service with some other idea, concept, or feeling. But we're not really trying to move an audience to do anything. We can generate and nurture demand. We can plant seeds, plant ideas. We can highlight a problem or an opportunity that our product or service helps solve for. We can frame that buying decision in a way that tilts the tables in our favor. There's a lot of things we can do here without directly asking the audience to take action and buy now. And that brings us to our third option. We can evoke action. We can say, hey, you need to do this now because here's your sense of urgency, whether that's a discount offer that expires, or an event registration date, register by such and such a date, or maybe it is creating a sense of urgency, and that every day that you don't do this, you lose X number of dollars. Give them an action to do, give them a reason to do it, and a reason to do it now. And then ideally, you're doing that in a context that they can take that action right there. So if your objective is awareness, 15-second pre-rolls, and even better, those 6-second bumpers are really your workforces. You don't want to dive into the weeds necessarily with awareness unless you have a really strong brand platform and you want to go deep in storytelling and really evoke a ton of emotion around what it feels like to be a part of your company, inside or outside. You're usually going to fall back to these 6-second bumpers and 15-second spots. Your objective here is not to try and convey the world. You want to convey, this is what my company does, or this is what this service or product does. And then tie it back to some core value proposition, brand, position, or feeling, some concept that you want strongly associated with your brand. And then that's it. You're not trying to hold their attention for a minute and a half. You're trying to capitalize on the fact that this is a very short ad, and they're going to watch it while they wait to get to the next thing. And the nice thing about this is, if you're focusing on awareness, you can go lean forward or lean back on the platforms and placements that you're targeting. It doesn't matter, because you just need their attention for a brief period to get that brand impression in front of them. Demand's a little bit trickier. If you're trying to generate demand, now you're looking more at your 30-second, or better yet, your skippable content. This is where your longer form 2-minute content really comes into play. The key here is leading with a really strong hook. Present some thought, idea, problem, something that they hadn't thought about before, or present your information in a truly entertaining way so that they feel compelled to watch, right? Tell a story, engage, and grab that attention. Capitalize on things like the hero's journey and other story frameworks in order to be able to make sure that you're following that pattern that's going to keep that person's attention long term, while you're helping them frame and understand their problem or their opportunity in unique and novel ways. Here, chances are you're going to end with some sort of a call to action, whether that is something, bottom of the funnel, like request a meeting, et cetera, or something that's a little bit more top of the funnel or middle of the funnel. Subscribe to get more content like this, or request this white paper, or to learn more, whatever it might be. So, lean towards those platforms that have at least a chance of a lean forward experience. So OTT is not a good fit for here, over the top or connected TV, not a good fit for this kind of video. YouTube would be okay, because some of those people are lean forward, especially in the context of business content. So that would be an okay place for you. But your paid social is ideal for this kind of content. And then action. If you're really trying to lead, drive a particular action with your video, you probably want a longer form video in order to key up what that is and give the person enough time to take action, if it's in a programmatic or a YouTube or that type of an environment. Make an offer, make it very clear with the value proposition, and then create a sense of urgency or FOMO, so that people act. All too often we see advertising, whether that's print, display, video, it doesn't matter, that don't give somebody a reason to act now. And we're human beings. We're lazy. We're procrastinators. We will not act on an offer unless we feel like there's some reason we need to act on it now. So create that sense of urgency. Embed that clickable, tappable call to action any way you can. If that's a companion banner on YouTube, if that's a call to action on paid social. And then really focus on placing this in a lean forward context. So be very mindful of whether that's lean forward or lean back. If you're running it on YouTube, go ahead and restrict smart TVs as a device, because you're not going to get the people who can actually act on it there. And if you're running it on social, make sure you've got that clear CTA button right there to go. Okay, that's it for today. Let me check the chat here. I'm not seeing any questions with either means. Oh, there we go. Susan asks, what do you recommend for an organization that wants to get more into video but has relatively limited resources? I would say you've got two avenues to go here. One, you can go the brand awareness avenue and spend a little bit of money to produce a reasonably well-produced 6-second bumper and 15-second spot that you're just going to run at a relatively low frequency at your target audience all the time, to elevate that brand awareness so that they know who you are and what makes you special and why they want to work with you. You don't have to change that video on a regular basis. You don't have to worry about producing a lot more video. You just have to produce it once, make sure you nail it, and then run it at the audiences that you want to improve awareness with. The other option is to go on the paid social angle, and instead of focusing on high production value, focus on low production value, high value. So get interviews with your subject matter experts, edit them down and put them out there. If you've got people who have ideas and concepts and content to share that is uniquely valuable, you don't need high production value for that. You just need to make sure that the content is distilled down and edited down to the point that you don't have big gaps in dead air or anything that is not holding that viewer's attention. Jesse asks, at the start, what type of testing would you recommend? That's a great question. One of our favorite places to test video is on, well, you can test on YouTube or on the socials. But make sure you've got that dialed down to the audience that you know is the correct audience, and then run some simple A/B tests. Now, A/B tests in video land are a little bit more expensive because, well, video content's a little bit more expensive. So focus on alternate edits, especially focusing on that first 3 to 5 seconds, because your biggest lever when it comes to optimization in video is reducing the number of people who skip or who continue scrolling after that first 2 or 3 seconds of video. And then after that, you can watch where your audience starts to drop off within that video. And the next time you run it, go and tweak that point in the video. So if everybody falls off at 43 seconds, what am I doing at 42 seconds that's causing everybody to check out, right? So obviously there was some content right before that drop off that was not in line with the audience's needs or expectations. And you can go back and edit that portion of the video and maybe even create 2 different versions at that point in order to improve the performance of the video from there. Next question here is, how many levels of attributes do you go when targeting? So I'm assuming that you're meaning like how many different dimensions or different ways of slicing and dicing the audience do you layer on top of each other when you're doing targeting? And the answer varies here. It varies a little bit on the platform that you're using. So like, again, Facebook Meta has amazing algorithms to go and fish in a larger pool to go find exactly the people that you need to be in front of, provided your content is only applicable to the people that you need to be in front of. In that instance, you can go broader and allow that algorithm to hone in on the right people. You'll know through the comments and through the traffic that and anybody who's clicking on stuff if it's missing in that algorithm. For other platforms, it becomes a cost value, an ROI calculation. The more you niche down your audience, the more likely that the fewer eyeballs are going to get that video. And so if that video gets in front of more eyeballs and they're less qualified, in B2B, we're not talking huge numbers here. So waste isn't necessarily a bad thing. And in a perfect world, we would develop 6 different cuts of our video, narrowed down to individual, segments and subsegments, et cetera, and then hone in our targeting down to that level. But in reality, none of us has budget to do that. So we're usually producing video with one particular audience in mind, but trying to make it also applicable to others. And so in that instance, I wouldn't get too niche down in your audience, but I would be selective. The best targeting methods, which are CRM and retargeting, are going to be pretty small audiences anyway. Your interest audiences on most of these platforms are going to be largely useless, and so you're really looking at contextual, you don't need to layer anything on top of that. CRM, you don't need to layer anything on top of that. And retargeting, you don't need to layer anything on top of that. So I would just let it be a little bit broad. Your waste isn't going to hurt you. Okay, with that, I want to thank everybody for their time today. I hope you got some value out of today's presentation. And please do follow us on LinkedIn for future webinars and content. And I look forward to talking to some of you in the future.